Obviously, a kid like myself from the inner city in Vallejo, to be able to, go into Cooperstown is obviously a dream.
Hi there, it's WAMC News Director Ian Pickus, and on this episode of the WAMC News Podcast, a conversation with a Baseball Hall of Famer. Well, this week, former Cleveland, New York, and Milwaukee pitcher CC Sabathia got some good news. He's heading into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown in July. Sabathia was elected by the baseball writers along with closer Billy Wagner and Seattle Mariners great Ichiro Suzuki. I had a chance to speak with Sabathia after he retired in 2020. Here's that conversation.
I think the hardest thing about, facing addiction is actually facing it, is actually saying that you need help. So, hopefully somebody can watch this documentary and get some help if they need it. Like I said, the hardest thing about, going to rehab or, admitting an addiction is actually admitting it. Everything after that is great. The last 5 years of my life have been really wonderful. And even the time that I spent in rehab, I really enjoyed, to be honest. I was gone away for 29 days, able to work on myself, no cell phone, just be able to, at peace of mind. I tell my wife now, I would pay to be able to go back and do that now and just get a month to be able to, reset. So I think, hopefully people can watch this doc and take the next step and turn their life around.
One question I had from the film was, you trace a lot of, the pain you were feeling from your on-again, off-again relationship with your father. He was in and out of your life, and then he died very young. So he didn't get to see all of your success in baseball later. I was wondering how much of your problem with alcohol stemmed from that, and how much of it was the pressure of having to perform on the baseball field at such a high level?
I think for me, it would have been, 70% my father and 30% the baseball pressure. I kind of use the baseball pressure as just a reason to drink. I think that the biggest thing that was ailing me, and not just my dad, it was my grandmother too. And then my cousin passed away in 2012. So, I've dealt with so much death. I mean, those are just three big ones. I had an uncle and a cousin pass away 6 months after my father passed away in 2003 that is not in the doc, that I never got a chance to mourn. I mean, my cousin passed away literally right I started in New York. He died that night, and then I came home. We did the funeral, and then I pitched in 5 days. I didn't miss a start. So I didn't even give my chance to I didn't give myself a chance to mourn or think about any of that stuff. I was just kept going, and I think that's what sent me down that spiral into, abusing alcohol and addiction and, ended up in rehab.
Have you found another way to deal with grief or challenges in life now that you're not drinking anymore? Do you have any advice for how to confront stuff like that?
Man, I think it's just, going to therapy, actually confronting it and not trying to run from it and dealing with the emotions of it. And just doing a lot of reading about, trying to keep a level head and a clear mind and, making sure that you're feeling good every day. And, mental health is a tough thing, a real thing. And I would always encourage people to try to get as much help as possible.
How did your experience with your father in your life influence the way that you're raising your kids and what kind of dad you are?
I think it makes me a great dad because, my childhood was, up until I was 12, my childhood was great with my father. We were together every day. And that's why I say in the doc, had he been living right now, him and Little C, him and Carson would be so close just because, my relationship with my son is the relationship that I had with my dad. And, I just know that if he was here, he would be at all these tournaments, all these different games. And, I just know that they would be, super close. So that makes me miss him for sure.
I want to talk to you about the title of the film, which is Under the Grapefruit Tree, your upbringing in Vallejo, California. It comes from your experience in the backyard of your grandmother's house, throwing grapefruits at a folding chair. That was your first strike zone. How did that teach you how to pitch?
I think people think like I would throw it at the back of the chair, but I would throw it through the little hole in the back of the chair, if that makes sense, the back part. That
Got
was
it.
like my little strike zone. So, by the time I was 7 or 8 years old, I could throw the ball wherever I wanted. That's how it helped me. Like I didn't take pitching lessons. I never had like a pitching coach or, all these one-on-ones in private that these kids do today. I never did that. I was in my backyard with grapefruits, locking in on the back part of the chair. And if I could throw the grapefruit through there, then I knew I could throw a baseball through anything.
A lot of times when we watch the game, it's clear that a pitcher on a given day doesn't have the command that they would normally have. I know you went through this in your career. Sometimes you go out there and it's not going where you want it. Mm-hmm. First of all, why does that happen?
I have no idea. I think if guys knew that, then, you wouldn't see everybody have an ERA in the twos.
So a second part of that question, when that is the case, when you're warming up and it just doesn't feel right or the first inning hasn't gone well, what do you do? Because, the manager's counting on you to go 5, 6, 7 innings.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's when it's just battle mode. And that's when you see, who is tough and who isn't. Everybody can pitch when they got their good stuff. But the guy that can go out there and battle when they can't throw strikes, when the breaking ball's not working, and go out and give you 6 tough innings, give up 2 or 3 runs and keep you in the game and give you a chance to win, that's the guy I want on my team. Luis Severino does a great job of that as a young pitcher. If he's not feeling great, he can still go out and give you 6 innings. And, that's an ace. And that's something that, Dave Berber taught me. Bend but don't break. Do whatever you got to do to keep us up and them down. Whatever that is. If you got to make up pitches, do that. And it's just going into battle mode. I learned that early from my older mentors, Dave Berber and Chuck Finley, and it just stuck with me.
Do you regret seeing the change in the game where, sometimes teams are now using their best relievers in what's known as a high leverage situation, and like the 5th inning, that's the end of the starter because they think the game might turn at that point. What do you think of that dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way the game's gone. And everybody's trying to build a super bullpen these days and, have a guy for each inning. But I think if you look at the teams that have, actually won the World Series the past couple of years, they've done it with starting pitching. Everybody tries to use one formula to win during the season, using openers and all this different stuff. But when you get to the playoffs, you need 3 starters to win. You need 3 starters to go 6, 7 innings to give you a chance to win a World Series. And, at some point, it'll be very back to where, you need starters to give you length.
In 2009, you signed a huge contract as a free agent to come to the Yankees. They spent a ton of money in that offseason, opened the new stadium in 2009, and won the World Series the first year there. What are your memories of that experience and that first year?
I think the one thing that I remember from 2009 is that it just felt like we were going to win every night. We had so many walk-offs and so many comebacks, and it was just a lot of fun to be around. And you just got the sense by August that we had a pretty good chance to win the World Series. So it was a lot of fun. That year was great. I mean, that was probably the best team I've ever been on in my career, and as far as closeness too. So it was very enjoyable to be on that team, and to win here in New York the first year in the stadium. It was incredible.
I think something that fans always wonder, because we take it so seriously, is when you don't win and the season comes to an abrupt ending in the playoffs, how hard do players take that?
Yeah, that's tough, especially, the later it gets in the playoffs. You get this feeling of, you got a chance to win, especially if you won before, what that feeling is like. And, the later you get in the playoffs, it's tough to deal with that loss and that crushing loss. But, you give yourself a couple weeks, get right back after it. And here in New York, you're going to be right back in the playoffs. You're going to have that opportunity again. So you better be ready and, try to learn from your mistakes and, get it done this time.
Is there one year from post-2009 that bothers you more than any other years because you guys didn't get it done?
10 and 11, to be honest, because those were that was the same team. And we were really, really good. But for whatever reason, we just couldn't put it together. But I thought for sure, after we won in '09, we would have won again by 2012.
I want to ask you about 2012. Now, if I'm thinking about a favorite CC Sabathia memory, it's got to be Game 5 of the ALDS against the Orioles in 2012. You pitched a complete game. Yankees won 3-1. It was a low-scoring affair, maybe one of the most tense baseball games I've ever watched. And you, of course, pitched for the second time in the series to win the game. How did you make it through a complete game in that kind of pressure cooker?
You know what? I mean, that game wasn't even that intense. For me, I guess everybody was Game 5, so it was intense for everybody else. But for me, it was like, I don't know. I just was feeling good. I kind of felt like I was in a groove, and it wasn't that intense. The only part that got really, it got a little dicey for me was the Nate McClouse when he just hit the homer foul. And then once they called that foul, I was like, man, that was y'all chance to score. That was it. I'm not making no more mistakes. You know what I'm saying? And I literally just had a mental lapse to him, a slider, and he hit it pretty good. I knew it was foul. They were begging for it to be fair, but once they called it foul, I was like, oh, that's game. But for whatever reason, going into that Game 5, I knew we were going to win. But I can't explain to you why. I just felt really good about it.
CC, I mentioned in the lead that I think you have a very good chance to make it to the Hall of Fame here in Cooperstown. Do you give any thought to that?
Yeah, now that I'm done playing, for sure. I mean, I would love to be able to go into Cooperstown. I mean, obviously a kid like myself from the inner city in Vallejo, to be able to, go into Cooperstown is obviously a dream. I mean, I never even played or could dream about going to Cooperstown. It was just always, trying to make my next start, when I was younger, not get sent down. And to be able to sit here now and, have people consider my career a Hall of Fame career, I mean, that's just an accomplishment in itself. So that's a blessing. But if I ever got a chance to get in, I mean, that would be awesome.
I know you said you don't miss the game day to day, but do you think there's a chance you'll ever get back into coaching? Will we see you in a dugout sometime?
Nah, no coaching. Definitely around the park though. But like I said, I just don't know if I can get back on that schedule where, it's dominating my summer. Maybe when my kids are older, maybe I'm in a different space when I'm in my 50s, 10 years from now. But right now, I just want to enjoy being a dad and kind of hang out and travel and live some life. Last
thing, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Return of the Jedi, for sure.
How come?
You know why? Because my dad took me to go see it. So it got me into Star Wars.
Okay. I won't spoil it for people who watch the documentary, but there is a nice cameo of CC Sabathia as Yoda.
Sure it is. Yeah, I forgot about that.
CC Sabathia, the new documentary about his life is called Under the Grapefruit Tree. CC, thank you for all of this time, and thanks for all the memories on the field.
No problem. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
To Sabathia, fitting, ball game. And for the 15th time, the Yankees are on their way to the American League Championship Series.
Okay, that does it for this episode of the WAMC News Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, I'm Ian Pickus.